back to Webex Partner Podcast, where we talk about Solutions Plus and our partners. This is your co-host, Taryn Montero, and this is episode 4. And we continue the conversation together with my Webex co-host, Donald DeWeet. Donald is a senior leader who has spent 25 years at Cisco and is currently the business development manager within our global sales organization within our Solutions Plus team, and is currently based in one of my favorite cities, actually in Barcelona, Spain. Hey, Donald, how are you?
Fine, thank you. And thanks for inviting me.
Great to have you as well on the program. And on episode 4, joining us is Steve Holmes. Steve is the VP of Sales at VQ. Prior to joining VQ, Steve worked in the partner community in commercial and operational roles and has a wealth of experience working with Cisco collaboration solutions and is enjoying bringing the experience to VQ. And now join Donald as he talks with Steve.
Yeah, and hey, Steve, welcome and good to speak with you again.
Thanks, Donald. It's nice to be here.
So let us go back to the beginning of this story. How did VQ Communications and Cisco originally get together, and why?
So VQ's got a long history of conference management and working with collaboration platforms and overlaying management applications. And that does go back a long way, 15, 16 years or so, working originally with Poly or Polycom as it was back then, and Radvision, moving into Codian and then into Acano. Of course, Acano was acquired by Cisco and became CMS, Cisco Meeting Server. And at that time, VQ rebranded from being the Acano manager. We were providing the OEM management platform for Acano at the time of that acquisition. And we became VQ Conference Manager, so very much independent, but 100% aligned and solely focused on providing the collaboration management experience for Cisco CMS customers.
So what kind of questions do you frequently hear from businesses who are interested in getting started with VQ Conference Manager?
So we hear a lot of questions, and quite often they're, how do we get a demo? How can we build a proof of concept? And quite often weird and wonderful specific use case requirements where customers want to deliver a particular feature or function in a certain way. Often we've been able to build those into the platform. One of which, as an example, was a function called Blast Dial, being the capability to automatically launch and dial out calls to a number of users in a emergency response type situation or critical action. I believe there's a requirement within the FDA that all airports have that capability within their emergency response practice. So that was a particular niche application, and has been built into Conference Manager for a couple of years now. Most conversations start from the perspective of wanting to build a service, whether that's the customer talking to us, whether that's a Cisco or a partner, solutions architect talking to us, and ultimately meeting requirements of a customer around how to deliver enterprise grade collaboration experience with Cisco CMS. And lately we've been getting a lot of conversations initiated from partners again and customers around what we're calling DMA, which is our TMS migration solution. From those people we're hearing at last. You know, TMS is quite long in the tooth. It's been around a long time. There's no further development on the platform, as we know, and people are looking to migrate onto something else. And I think we might talk about that a little bit later in the podcast.
Okay, fair. That's very interesting. So what is a joint customer VQ story that you like to tell around this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these, and as I mentioned a minute ago about the blast dial capability, there's particular niche applications and requirements that come up. But one that springs to mind really is it's a United States DoD agency. They were looking to bring service in-house rather than using a public service. They've got teams dispersed globally. They're very mobile. They're moving people from location to location. The platform and service needs to be managed by a particularly small team, so automation was particularly important to them. Being able to add and change and move users around on the platform, also particularly important. And that customers had a successful deployment. They started off in a small proof of concept, a small trial environment, and grew that to being a much larger platform, and still a customer with us a few years later. So they're a heavy user of the analytics that are built into VQ, and they've used that to allow them to future plan and forward plan their capacity requirements. So as they're seeing servers and services growing in utilization, they're able to plan for deployment of additional hardware, etc. So they've been able to plan for growth on the platform by using VQ's analytics and deploying hardware in the places that they need to deploy it in an efficient and effective manner.
Okay. So now that you were talking about telling a story, Stian, what is your favorite city? Because I know you like Barcelona. In fact, you were my first partner that came to Barcelona to come to visit me. It was in fact my first external meeting in COVID. So apart from Barcelona, any other places you'd like to go?
Barcelona, as you said, I do like, and I'm looking forward to being back there in a couple of months with ISE being in Barcelona in May. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that. I've always got to say London. London, great city, lots of culture, lots of history. But if you go further afield, I was talking with somebody earlier today, and they live just south of Boston, and yeah, I love Boston as well. So yeah, different cities for different times, but yeah, pick one of those. Boston, London, and Barcelona's creeping up there as well.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, I have you in my agenda for I think April. You booked me again, so looking forward to meet up again.
So, yeah, definitely.
Good. So coming back on the VQ Conference Manager, what are the most common use cases for the VQ Conference Manager? Having any new one become more prominent this year compared, and certainly now that we embrace the hybrid work model, can you tell a little bit more?
Absolutely. When the pandemic struck and we all saw the stats and the graphs and the huge moving of workforces from offices to homes, and you see all of the service platforms and the significant growth. It was phenomenal, the amount of growth within WebEx. We had similar asks from our customers. They've got on-premise infrastructure, on-premise services, really structured around being in an office or a facility. How do we make services available and accessible to users who are now having to be working from home and more dispersed, and really trying to give them that WebEx style experience, a lot more self-service, migrating people from white glove or concierge managed calls to being able to do things from themselves and scheduling their calls. So what we had a lot of requests for the WebEx style experience. We had some as well from people that said, "Oh, we'd like a Zoom style experience," but we don't talk about those too much. And that led a lot of the development during the last 2 years during the pandemic around enhancing the self-service capabilities of the platform and making it easier for people to click to join, so people can log into VQ Conference Manager. They can see their own scheduled meetings. They can click the "I want to join the meeting" button, the green join button, and then join by a variety of different means depending on what's configured on the system. So really, it's about user accessibility and simplification, so that people can join the meetings easily. They can invite people easily, and really deliver that WebEx style experience on an on-premise platform.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We know that customers globally use VQ Conference Manager to deliver the WebEx style video and audio conferencing services on the Cisco Meeting Server platform. Now, how easy is it for a new customer to do that?
So it can be really easy, but it's the same as many other applications, isn't it? It's really easy to deploy something, but actually the success comes in the adoption, the processes, and communications internally. So we can have a platform stood up within a day or 2 days for a customer. That's pretty easy to do, but really it's around designing that service level. So I talked earlier about that migration from concierge and white glove to self-service calls. And really what we try and talk to customers about is we have this sort of pyramid of purpose where you've got this very broad, wide platform at the bottom of the pyramid that is that's your self-service. That's a lot of people scheduling calls and looking after themselves. So you've got lots of capacity, lots of calls, lots of activity, and a pretty light management overhead on a day-to-day basis or a call-by-call basis. And then as you go further up the pyramid to the top, you've got the white glove, the big calls, the large-scale calls that don't happen very often, but the management overhead is very high. They're scheduled, they're managed, they're monitored all the way through. People are added and screen layouts are changed and all of that sort of stuff. So really it's about defining where you want to be on that scale and what sorts of services you want to deliver. And VQ allows you to deliver all of those across the complete range and give people access to different service levels in different ways on the same platform. So really it's about and the time to service is design the service you want to deliver and then build the service you want to deliver. The actual standing up of the platform is pretty quick and pretty simple.
Okay. Steve, I remember when you, in the introduction, you mentioned we have a very long-standing relationship with Cisco. So what is next for VQ Communications, and what would you like to see in the coming months for the partnership with Cisco?
So I mentioned earlier about DMA, and that's big for us. Yeah, so that's our device management and automation. It's the journey to take customers on that are currently using TMS and moving them on to an alternate on-premise platform. We mentioned earlier about cloud, and ultimately Cisco's goal and aim is to move people off of TMS and move them onto WebEx, get them cloud registered. And we support that, and that's great, but it isn't applicable for all customers everywhere. There are geographies where that doesn't work. There are industries and sectors where that doesn't work, specifically DoD type organizations, government agencies, and some public sector customers, and some private sector companies for that matter as well. Banking, finance, etc. They might just have this. We don't want to go to cloud. We're not there. It's not on the journey yet. So they want something else that allows them to manage their environment, manage it on premise, and be in control of that rather than relying on cloud infrastructure. So we're on a journey. We've released the first part of that our DMA story, if you like, our one button to push. So calls that are scheduled using VQ Conference Manager will be able to be one button to push enabled. And then we bring out the next part of that in a month or so's time, which is going to be our device address books, or phone books as they're known in TMS. So really we've got this migration story that allows customers to take a part of the TMS infrastructure and migrate it to DMA and pick those off in a managed and controlled fashion over the next 3 to 6 months, or as quickly as they choose to, for that matter. So that's really big. We've got a lot of interest in that. I think maybe you joined the webinar that we ran last week, talking to partners and customers about that, and we've had a huge amount of interest. So that's really positive. And then the other area that we're building upon is our APL approval. So this is something we've been working on for about 15 months. And I'll come back to your question in a minute, because actually it does all loop around and get back to it. Is this APL? So that's a FIPS compliant version of Conference Manager, which may or may not mean much to people, but that's built upon security standings and standards. We get through this APL process, which is the approved products list, particularly relevant to the US DoD market, which enables people to purchase VQ Conference Manager and be confident that we've passed stringent security standards. So what does that enable us in terms of the relationship with Cisco? That enables us to transact more business. It enables us to have a route to market, and really that strengthens and grows our joint business between Cisco and VQ, and enables Cisco partners to sell VQ Conference Manager and CMS and additional video endpoints, as well as around that whole DMA story.
Okay, so coming back on that, how are Cisco and VQ working to provide the migration program for existing TMS customers?
So that is a good question. Something that we've been working with the business unit on through the last 4 or 5 months is exactly that, being very clear around what we're developing and how we're developing it, but also funding a joint trade-in or migration program. So actually launching 7th of March, there will be a new SKU available within the Cisco pricing tool, and that's a trade-in SKU. So any existing TMS customers, which really is the market we're going after, to be honest. We're not looking for new on-premise customers. So we're expecting that there's going to be quite a large take-up of the promotion for a 20% reduction on the list price of DMA right through to the end of Cisco's Q1 next year. So that's October 22, so 31st of October 2022.
Okay, so I was an IT manager in my previous life before I joined the collaboration sales. Migrating was always my biggest scare. Okay, so now we're gonna migrate from TMS. How is VQ Comms gonna support this? How do you support these migrations to our customers?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things there that tie back to what I was saying earlier around planning being critical, and a phased approach. So whilst we've got the one button to push element now, and directory services coming next, and then all of the conference management, sorry, not conference management, the endpoint management will come a little bit after that. It gives people that the ability to co-run and coexist TMS and VQ DMA side by side. And we'll also be working with our partners as well. So we've got we have a deployment assist program and a supported program currently, where our professional services team work with end users directly or with the Cisco channel partner to deploy VQ Conference Manager, and we'll continue to do the same. So we'll have a clear migration strategy, and we're also developing tools as well, so integration tools and migration tools for customers moving off of TMS. So whether that is a database export, for example, from TMS into VQ, and we'll also have live integration into CUCM as well. So at that point, you'll be able to pull out your live endpoints and devices that are CUCM managed, if they're CUCM managed, and integrate those straight into VQ DMA. So there'll be a live synchronization at that point. So really it's about planning, having the tooling, taking a phased approach, take a small subset of the estate to start with, migrate that, make sure you're comfortable. It is a new platform. It does similar things to TMS because that's, it's about endpoint management. So we're going to be managing the endpoints, but really it's a different product with a different workflow. So there's a little bit of getting used to how things are going to change a little bit as well. So taking that small subset, massive recommendation, and ultimately we're here to help and support customers through that journey. So yeah, safe pair of hands, I think is the message there.
Perfect. Yeah. Now, if I would be an IT manager again, you convinced me to do that migration.
Yeah, I'll maybe use one of my colleagues to do it, not me.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your time. We really appreciate you joining the podcast. Any other closing statements?
Thanks, Taryn. Pleasure to speak with you, Donald, as always. Really just to direct people to our website for more information, vqcoms.com. There's also an Ask VQ space in Webex for people that are part of that. You can gain access to that space, but also using old-fashioned email, info@vqcoms.com, to find out more about VQ, all the subjects of DMA and all those other things we've been discussing today. So yeah, thanks both for taking the time.
That was the end of our conversation with Steve Holmes. Next time, we'll get into more episodes with Solutions Plus. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on our official Webex YouTube page. And we really appreciate your help getting the word out and leaving a review. That's where we live. And you can find other great podcast episodes there as well. Until next time, thanks for listening.